Hello, my name is Detective Barara, and it is currently 3 a.m. in Longstreet Means Hall at Emory University. I received a phone call from a student who wanted to study in a study lounge, and they claimed that they found a woman who is Asian between the age of 20 and 22 dead at the crime scene. Let's go investigate and figure out what happened. Here is our victim. As we have found earlier, she is of Asian descent between the ages of 20 and 22. She seems to be a student here who went out for a party, perhaps. If we take a look at her legs, we notice that there are bruises which are consistent with a struggle. Maybe she had an argument with someone. Next, we look at her fingernails, which, as you can see, there is evidence of blood on the fingernails. This blood could be consistent with her potentially trying to defend herself during a struggle. Also, we can maybe receive some DNA, gather some DNA from the blood. Perhaps it is of the murderer. Next, if we take a look at her neck, and we see bruises consistent with strangulation. Perhaps that was the form of which she was murdered. As we can see, there is a pool of blood near her head. This is consistent with head trauma, which may be caused by the gash on her right lobe. This pool of blood has not been disturbed, which indicates that this is the primary scene of the crime. All items in this room are therefore evidence which could be used to solve this mystery and find out who her murderer was. The blood splatter is of high velocity, which indicates a very quick and hard blunt force trauma to the head. Next, we can see that she is wearing party clothes. Perhaps she went out on a Saturday night to go to a party. We can see that one of her heels are on and one of them are off, which means that she may not have been comfortable with her assailant. This heel shows that she had not received an opportunity to take them off. Perhaps she was taken by surprise. Also, we have noticed that on her ears, her neck, and her hands, arms, there are no evidence of jewelry, which is consistent with a robbery. Perhaps the assailant took the pricey jewels and decided to sell them for a higher price. We take a look at the purse, which has been emptied of its contents, most of which are here. If we take a look at the assailant's wallet, we can see that there is no identification, nor is there any cash within the wallet, which is also consistent with a robbery. Perhaps the assailant took this as an opportunity to get some money. We can also see here that we must use her fingerprints for identification, and we must also receive identification from maybe a loved one to confirm that this camera here is a high-quality camera. It is generally used for taking pictures of landscapes, and this high-quality camera is not manufactured in many places. From there, we can deduce where it was bought and figure out who the owner actually is. If the owner maybe is the assailant, or maybe the owner is the victim. If the owner is the victim or the assailant, from the photos that have been taken, we can figure out where they have been and maybe perhaps where the assailant lives if she had known him. Next, we see that her phone is still here. From that, we can track her phone calls and figure out who she had talked to in the last 24 to 48 hours. And based on the number of phone calls from people, we can figure out if there's a motive behind the people who have attacked her. Also, these phone numbers, from there we can deduce also her identification. Next, we see that her belt is here, which may have been taken off of her during the struggle. This is consistent with potential rape or an attempt of rape. Also, we can see that there is a bottle of alcohol here. This bottle of alcohol may have been drinking from the assailant, and perhaps we can receive some DNA from that. Also, it may be easier for us to figure out who the assailant is based on the alcohol that he buys. Lastly, when surveying the entire crime scene, we noticed that the chair has been knocked over, which shows that there may have been an actual struggle.
From the evidence that we have collected at the crime scene, we are able to determine that she was strangled and fell to the ground when she hit her head and bled out. We will need to gather more evidence in order to catch our attacker, but for now we must bring our evidence back to the forensics lab for analysis.